The stars twisted wrong. Captain Elena Rourke had seen slipstream turbulence before, but never like this. One moment her ship, the Endeavor's Reach, was sailing through the corridor of bending light. The next it lurched sideways as if shoved by an invisible hand. The bridge lights flickered. Panels buzzed. Crew members clutched their stations while the ship shuddered violently, then spat itself back into normal space with a metallic groan. "Status report," Rourke said, her voice even, though her stomach hadn't caught up with reality yet. "Drives offline," her navigator replied, fingers flying over glowing displays. "Coordinates, not matching any charted system." "Not matching?" Rourke asked. She straightened in her chair, dark hair falling loose from its tie. "Clarify." The navigator hesitated. "We're not just off course, Captain. We're somewhere that doesn't exist on human maps." A low whistle came from engineering. "That's one way to make history." Before Rourke could respond, the forward screen shifted. Space ahead was not empty. Shadows moved, vast, angular shapes reflecting distant sunlight. They weren't asteroids. They were ships. Enormous ships. The bridge went silent. The vessels emerged slowly, blotting out stars as they closed ranks. They dwarfed the Reach, each one bristling with spines of metal and glowing veins of green energy. The comms officer spoke, voice tight. "We're being hailed." Multiple signals, not in any language on record. "Put it through," Rourke ordered. The speakers erupted with layered voices, sharp and commanding, the kind of sound that demanded obedience even without translation. Words rose and fell like hammer blows. "Translation software?" Rourke asked. "Trying," the officer said. "Signal encryption is complex." The alien voices repeated, louder this time. Symbols flashed across the screen, harsh geometric glyphs accompanied by a pulsing red bar. The meaning was unmistakable. A demand to surrender. Some of the younger crew shifted uncomfortably. One muttered, "That's a whole fleet. We're dead." Rourke didn't flinch. She leaned back in her chair, studying the colossal warships as if she were watching a storm roll in over the ocean. Then she smiled. "Tell them we're busy. They'll have to wait." The comms officer froze. "You want me to?" "Send it," Rourke said. "Plain English. No encryption. Let them hear it raw." A few seconds later, her words echoed into the void, carried across frequencies far older and stronger than anything human-built. The alien fleet shifted formation. The nearest ship rotated, its triangular hull angling toward them like a spearhead. Energy flared along its surface, green veins blazing brighter until the whole vessel glowed. The bridge filled with the hum of charging weapons. "Captain," her tactical officer said, voice sharp, "that's a firing sequence." "Of course it is," Rourke said lightly. She stood, stepping closer to the forward screen. The alien warship's surface glowed with lethal intensity, energy coiling in its massive prow like lightning trapped in glass. "Options?" she asked. "We could try running," the navigator said quickly. "If we can reinitialize slipstream." "With what?" "Engineering cut in. Drives are fried. At best we can give you impulse." Another officer suggested, "We could raise shields." "Against that." The tactical officer shook his head. "Might buy us 3 seconds." The alien voices returned, more insistent. The translation system finally began to parse fragments. "Unauthorized vessel, trespass violation. Submit or be eradicated." The bridge grew tense. Every crew member looked to Rourke. She studied the fleet. The sheer scale of it was staggering. Ships like moving continents, bristling with technology beyond anything humanity had dreamed of. A rational person might feel awe or terror. Rourke felt only curiosity. "Record everything," she ordered. "I want scans, frequencies, energy profiles. If we're going to die, let's at least leave history some notes." That earned a few nervous chuckles. The tension thinned, just slightly. The tactical officer cleared his throat. "Captain, if I may." They're expecting us to kneel. Maybe we should play for time. Rourke glanced at him, one eyebrow raised. Do I look like I'm built for kneeling? A beat of silence. Then laughter, brief, sharp, but real. The alien fleet did not laugh. The nearest warship pulsed again, energy surging into its forward cannon. The green light lit up half the screen. Impact in 30 seconds if they fire, Tactical warned. Plenty of time, Rourke said. She stepped closer, folding her arms. Her reflection glimmered faintly against the viewport, one small human staring down a force designed to terrify. Open comms, she said. The officer obeyed. Rourke leaned forward, speaking clearly, her voice steady as stone. This is Captain Elena Rourke of the Endeavor's Reach, representing the human race. We don't recognize your authority. We don't bow. And we sure as hell don't scare easy. If you're going to fire, then fire. Otherwise, she smiled thinly, make room. We've got places to be. The words carried out across the void, unencrypted, raw. The alien fleet hesitated. For a heartbeat, for two, nothing moved. Energy still burned at the warship's prow, but the final discharge never came. Instead, the comms crackled. The translation system struggled, but enough came through. Insolent, primitive, commanded by High Strategos Valix. You will learn fear. Rourke exhaled, amused. So they have a name. Valix. She turned to her crew. Good. Always better to know who you're about to annoy. A murmur of agreement swept the bridge. The alien ships began to shift again, tightening their formation, encircling the Reach completely. More energy readings lit up, hundreds of them. The fleet was not backing down. The tactical officer spoke quietly. Captain, they're going to board us. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Good. Saves us the trouble of knocking on their door. The crew exchanged glances. Fear hadn't vanished, but something else had taken its place, resolve. Their captain's calm was infectious. On the forward screen, the alien fleet loomed closer, weapons glowing like emerald suns. First contact had begun, and humanity was not concerned. The alien fleet closed around the Endeavor's Reach like a tightening fist. On the main display, their ships shifted with mechanical precision, sealing every possible escape vector. Jagged silhouettes eclipsed the stars, hulls etched with glowing lines that pulsed like veins of living fire. Their power hummed faintly through the void, so strong that even human sensors trembled under the weight of it. They've completely surrounded us, Tactical reported. Weapons are hot. Shield readings suggest their smallest cruiser outguns our entire ship by a factor of 10. Noted, Rourke said, her voice calm. The comms officer raised a hand. New transmission. Stronger this time, originating from what looks like their command vessel. Patch it through. The forward screen blazed to life. An alien filled the display, towering and broad-shouldered, framed by emerald banners and cold steel walls. His skin was pale bronze, ridged along the brow, with eyes like polished obsidian. Armor gleamed across his chest, ornate and heavy, marked with curling sigils. When he spoke, his voice resonated like a war drum. The translator sputtered before locking in. Humans. You trespass within the Zorian Empire. I am High Strategos Valix, Warden of the Frontier. You will deactivate your systems, surrender your vessel, and kneel before the throne. Failure to comply will result in your eradication. Gasps rose from the younger officers, but Rourke didn't blink. She crossed one leg over the other, leaning against her command chair with a faint smile. Good evening, Strategos, she said evenly. Apologies for dropping in uninvited. Navigation glitch. Happens to the best of us. The translation carried her words across the channel. Valix's nostrils flared. His head tilted in disdain. You jest before the Empire? Insolence does not amuse me. Your vessel is insignificant, your people unknown. Submit now or be destroyed. Rourke tapped her console lazily. Insignificant? You brought a fleet. Must be a slow day at the border. A ripple of nervous laughter spread across her bridge. Valix's eyes narrowed, unaccustomed to mockery. You are primitives. This demonstration is mercy. Observe. He gestured off-screen. On the tactical display, one of the alien warships rotated and fired. A lance of green energy sliced through space, tearing into a barren moon at the system's edge. The rock split like glass, glowing fractures racing across its surface before the entire satellite erupted in silence, reduced to a drifting cloud of molten fragments. The crew stared. No sound carried through vacuum, yet the sight alone stole breath from the room. The power was obscene. Rourke, however, only raised her eyebrows. Impressive light show. Bit heavy-handed for target practice, though. How much energy did you waste just to scare us? Her words carried sharp edges. She wasn't reckless, she was deliberate. To cower would place humanity beneath these creatures forever. To mock was to shake their certainty. Valix's face hardened. You will learn respect. Respect is earned, Rourke replied, her tone flat. Not demanded. The alien's jaw clenched. Around him, his officers whispered urgently, their voices muffled but agitated. They had expected fear. What they got instead was a human captain who looked bored. Rourke leaned forward. We didn't come here for war, strategos. We're explorers. Scientists. We make mistakes. But one thing you should understand about my people, we don't kneel. For the first time, Valix hesitated. His lips curled, not quite a snarl, not quite uncertainty. You risk annihilation. Rourke's smile sharpened. So be it. But if you wanted us erased, you'd have done it already. Instead, you're talking. Which means you're curious. The bridge crew glanced at each other. She was right. The fleet's restraint spoke volumes. Valix exhaled slowly, then leaned closer to the feed. Curiosity will not protect you. No, Rourke agreed, but fear won't protect you either. And I don't see my people trembling. She gestured subtly to her crew, officers steady at their posts, not one on their knees. Take a good look. This is humanity. We don't frighten easy. Silence stretched across the channel. The hum of alien power still radiated, but the certainty behind it cracked just a little. One of the Zorian officers stepped into view beside Valix, whispering in his ear. Valix waved him away impatiently. His dark eyes never left Rourke. Finally, he said, Very well. If you refuse surrender, you will face consequences. We will seize your vessel. You will watch as your people are taken. Then we will see how long your defiance lasts. The comms cut abruptly. On the bridge, tension flared again. Boarding action, Tactical muttered. They're prepping assault craft. Rourke straightened, expression cool. Let them come. Her engineer frowned. Captain, they'll tear us apart. Only if we play by their rules, Rourke replied. She stepped toward the command console, her tone brisk. They think we're weak. Let's make that mistake cost them. Orders rippled across the bridge. Shields shifted to maximum along vulnerable sections. Engineers rerouted power to hull integrity. Security teams armed themselves with standard rifles, not much compared to alien plasma, but enough in close quarters. Rourke spoke into ship-wide comms. Crew of the Endeavor's Reach, listen carefully. We're about to host some very unwelcome guests. They'll expect fear. Don't give it to them. Stand tall. They need to learn that humanity does not bow. A chorus of affirmatives echoed back. The navigator leaned over, whispering, Captain, what if they overwhelm us? Rourke didn't look at him. Then we'll make sure they remember the day they met us. That's all history ever asks. On the forward display, alien boarding pods detached from the nearest cruiser, sleek cylinders glowing with green thrusters, dozens of them streaking toward the Reach. The crew watched in silence, waiting for impact. Rourke folded her arms, gaze steady. First impressions matter, she murmured. The first boarding pod struck the Endeavor's Reach with a metallic boom that shuddered through the hull. Alarms echoed across the bridge. The sound wasn't catastrophic, No breach alarms yet, but it was a reminder that something hostile had latched onto their ship. Multiple impacts, port and starboard, tactical confirmed, voice clipped. Magnetic clamps locked. They're cutting. The screen displayed glowing red points where alien drills bored into human plating. It wouldn't take long. Rourke's tone was even. Security teams, hold positions. Do not engage until they're through. Acknowledgements crackled over comms, steady voices masking nerves. The ship trembled again. Another pod, then another. The Zorians weren't probing. They were swarming. The navigator glanced at Rourke. They'll overwhelm us by numbers alone. Numbers aren't everything, she replied. Keep watching. She turned to engineering. Status on systems? Drives are still dead, but I've rerouted auxiliary power. Enough to give them surprises. Good. Stay creative. The tactical officer added, they've disabled external comms. No transmission out. Rourke smiled thinly. Then everything we do here will be word-of-mouth history. Even better. The first breach ripped open. Sparks flew as a circular section of corridor wall clattered inward. Through the smoke, armored figures advanced. Tall, broad, exoskeletons gleaming under artificial light. They carried weapons that hummed with lethal energy, their helmets faceless and cold. Zorians aboard, came the call from security. Gunfire erupted, sharp, controlled bursts of human rifles. The aliens moved with practiced efficiency, returning fire with plasma bolts that scorched walls and ceilings. Yet the humans didn't fall back. They used cover, angles, and choke points, forcing the invaders into narrow corridors where numbers meant less. Rourke listened to the reports like a conductor monitoring a symphony. Her orders were crisp. Team Bravo, seal Deck 6. Engineering, vent non-essential compartments, thin their air. Make them sweat. Yes, Captain. Vents hissed. Oxygen drained from selected sections, not enough to kill but enough to disrupt the aliens' sealed armor, fogging their visors and straining their systems. Confusion rippled through enemy ranks. Rourke tapped her console, opening ship-wide comms. To our guests, welcome aboard. I'd offer drinks, but I don't think your suits can handle whiskey. Her words echoed across decks, reaching both crew and invaders. Laughter broke out among the humans, sharp and defiant. On the alien side, hesitation flickered. Their empire was built on obedience and intimidation. Humor in the face of battle was something they didn't understand. The tactical officer grinned. That rattled them. Good, Rourke said. Keep them off balance. Another call came in. Captain, Deck 3 secure. Hostiles retreating toward their breach point. Seal it behind them. Make them fight for every step. Reports stacked quickly. Firefights on multiple decks, humans holding choke points, jury-rigging traps. One engineering team overloaded conduit panels, blasting invaders with arcs of electricity. A medical officer coordinated triage under fire, refusing to abandon her post even when plasma bolts scorched nearby bulkheads. The crew wasn't winning every exchange. Casualties mounted, and corridors were scarred, but the Zorians hadn't expected resistance this stubborn from a ship they considered prey. Rourke studied the tactical map. The aliens pressed hard at 3 points. Too many pods, too many troops. She needed to shift momentum. Suggestions? She asked quietly. The navigator, pale but steady, said, we can isolate sections with emergency bulkheads. Trap them inside. The engineer added, if we cut gravity in those zones, they'll stumble. We're used to microgravity. They may not be. Rourke's eyes lit. Do it. Moments later, whole sections of corridor went weightless. Humans clipped themselves to rails and fired calmly, practiced from training in zero-G drills. The aliens, heavier, less agile, flailed as their boots lost purchase. Shots went wild. Humans moved like fish in water, every kick and push deliberate. The tactical map shifted, red markers thinning. The boarding slowed. Still, Valix wasn't giving up. His voice suddenly boomed over the comms, forced through their systems by brute transmission power. Humans. You resist like insects. Futile. Surrender, and I will grant swift judgment. Defy, and you will suffer endlessly. Rourke answered without hesitation. Strategos, you've sent squads of your best, and they're slipping on our floors. If this is mercy, I'd hate to see your cruelty. A pause. The bridge crew chuckled despite themselves. Valix snarled. You think words will save you? No, Rourke said. Our actions will. At that moment, a breach report flashed. One Zorian squad had pushed deeper than expected. Deck 4, dangerously close to auxiliary controls. Rourke snapped orders. Alpha Team, converge. Do not let them reach that panel. Gunfire roared through the comms. Shouts, impacts, metal clattering. Then silence. Finally, a human voice. Deck 4 secure. Hostiles neutralized. Relief swept the bridge. Rourke exhaled slowly. She knew it was only the beginning. The fleet outside could still reduce them to ash. Yet every second they held, every alien soldier they forced back, chipped away at the Empire's certainty. The tactical officer leaned toward her. Captain, we can't hold forever. I know, she said. Her gaze fixed on the forward display, where alien cruisers loomed like predators. But we don't need forever. We just need them to remember us. On cue, engineering chimed in. Captain, I have an idea. Risky one. Go on. If we overload the magnetic clamps on those pods, we might detach them and fling their own troops back into space. Won't take all of them, but it'll hurt. Rourke nodded. Do it. Make it loud. A minute later, a deep vibration rippled through the ship. Then, with a violent shudder, 2 boarding pods tore loose. Through the viewport, they tumbled away, thrusters sparking uselessly, alien soldiers trapped inside. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Rourke allowed herself a grin. Message delivered. Outside, the alien fleet shifted again. Their formation tightened. More weapons lit up. The tactical officer's face grew grim. Captain, they're preparing for full-scale retaliation. Rourke's eyes narrowed. She straightened, her voice calm. Let them. We'll greet it the same way we greet everything else. She tapped the comms again, her words carrying across every deck, to friend and foe alike. Remember this, all of you. Humanity doesn't kneel. Not today, not ever. The ship vibrated as another wave of pods approached. Pressure was rising. The storm was far from over. But on the Endeavor's reach, not one human faltered. The Endeavor's reach shook as another salvo from the alien cruisers slammed into her shields. Sparks showered the bridge. Systems flickered, holding only because the engineers refused to let them die. Shields at 30%, Tactical reported, sweat running down his temple. Rourke didn't flinch. Keep them angled toward their heavy guns. We can't give them our belly. The alien fleet had stopped probing. Now they pressed in with disciplined fury. Fighters swarmed like wasps, and boarding pods rained toward the human vessel in waves. The Zorians meant to end it here. Another 6 pods latching starboard, came the warning. Rourke nodded. Then starboard it is. We hold them there. Her voice, carried through comms, snapped the crew together. Exhaustion showed in their faces, but no one slowed. They moved as if her calm was oxygen, keeping them sharp in a fight they should not have survived this long. Deck 7 thundered with boots and plasma fire. The bulkhead exploded inward, and Zorian troops surged through. They expected chaos. Instead, they found a barricade of overturned crates and welded steel plates. Behind it, humans fired in disciplined volleys, each shot precise. "Push forward," barked the alien commander. The response was an improvised explosive sliding across the deck. It detonated with concussive force, throwing armored figures against walls. Smoke filled the corridor. Humans advanced through it like ghosts, rifles steady, blades flashing when the distance closed. A young crewman shouted over comms, breathless. "Captain, they keep coming, but they don't move like they're winning." They look uncertain. Rourke allowed herself the smallest smile. Good. Keep showing them why. In the bowels of engineering, Lieutenant Hale wiped grime from his face as systems wailed. They've cut power to coolant pumps. We've got 5 minutes before the reactor overheats. Options? Rourke asked. 1, he said grimly. We can reroute heat into the boarding pod's clamps. Burn them off our hull. But it'll take finesse, and if we miscalculate, we'll light ourselves up, Rourke finished. Hale nodded. Exactly. She didn't hesitate. Do it. If we burn loud. On the alien flagship, Strategos Valix watched feeds of the human vessel. He had expected screams, surrender, begging. Instead, he saw defiance, barricades, ambushes, traps. His jaw clenched. They bleed, yet they laugh, one of his aides murmured, unsettled. Silence, Valix snapped. But he could not deny the truth. These humans fought like predators cornered, not prey. They cannot hold, he told himself. No one can hold forever. Yet doubt lingered. Back aboard the Reach, the reactor groaned as Hale's team rerouted heat. Pipes rattled, metal groaned, sweat poured off engineers. Clamp temperature rising, Hale announced. Come on, come on. The ship vibrated as magnetic locks melted. Then, with a violent lurch, 3 pods tore free, spinning into void. Aliens trapped inside pounded on their hatches before vanishing into the dark. Cheers roared through every deck. Morale surged like a wave. Humans were winning ground, not everywhere, not decisively, but enough to matter. Rourke seized the moment. Boarding teams, counterattack. Don't just hold, push them out. The ship became a hive of motion. Humans surged forward, reclaiming corridors, seizing weapons from fallen invaders, turning them against their owners. Every step was bought in blood, but for the first time the Zorians faltered. One squad of aliens made a desperate stand at an intersection. Plasma fire painted the walls red. A human grenadier dove behind cover, primed a charge, and lobbed it low. The blast took the aliens off their feet, and Marines stormed through, rifles blazing. Deck 5 secured, came the cry. Another report, starboard breaches contained. Survivors retreating into their pods. The tide was shifting. But Valix was not finished. Snarling, he ordered his fleet to close and prepare boarding waves 10 times larger. If they wish to resist, we will bury them under bodies. Sensors picked up the movement. The alien cruisers repositioned, hatches opening for mass deployment. Tactical swallowed hard. Captain, if they all come at once. They won't, Rourke cut him off. Her eyes gleamed. Not if we strike first. The bridge went silent. Rourke leaned forward, voice firm. We take their arrogance and break it. Tactical, target the pods still attached. Overload their clamps. Engineering, give me every ounce of spare power to weapons. Helm, prepare to roll us into their formation. Her crew stared. To charge into the middle of an alien fleet with failing shields was madness. But madness was all they had. Yes, Captain, they said together. The Endeavor's Reach roared as her engines flared. The ship twisted hard, slinging debris and broken pods free. She dove straight toward the heart of the alien formation. Weapons lit her hull with fire, but she plowed on, shields screaming. At point-blank range, her guns spat fury. Boarding pods vaporized mid-launch, alien frigates staggered as plasma fire chewed into them. The humans had no fleet, no reinforcements, only audacity. On the flagship, Valix shot to his feet. They charge us? Alone? Impossible. But the impossible was unfolding. Inside the Reach, corridors were still war zones. Humans drove the last pockets of invaders toward their crippled pods. Blood, smoke, and ozone filled the air. Captain, a Marine captain called over comms, we've cleared Deck 7. No hostiles remain aboard. Rourke's jaw tightened. Then we hold this bridge until the universe remembers today. Outside, alien cruisers hesitated. In all their conquests, no prey had ever lunged back into the predator's teeth. And in that hesitation, humanity carved a legend. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming. Shield readouts dipped into single digits. Flames licked across the bridge as systems overloaded. Tactical shouted, "Shields collapsing." Rourke raised her voice over the chaos. "Stay with me. As long as one of us draws breath, we are not done." Her words carried through every deck. Exhausted, bleeding, smoke-stained humans lifted weapons and stood firm. The Zorians had numbers. The humans had something else. The Endeavor's reach was a dying beast clawing through fire. Hull plating peeled away under bombardment, shields collapsed in a cascade of sparks, and the ship's heartbeat, its reactor, groaned at the edge of failure. And still, she fought. Alien cruisers closed from every side, engines burning emerald across the void. Boarding waves massed for another strike. To the Zorians, the battle was nearly won. Yet hesitation slowed their hands. The humans had survived every tactic thrown at them. What if they still had more to give? Rourke stood at the center of her bridge, blood running down her cheek, one eye half swollen shut. Her uniform was scorched, her voice hoarse, but her presence cut sharper than any weapon. "Status," she demanded. Shields gone. Engines crippled. Forward guns, barely functional. And the crew. Tactical hesitated, then answered. "Still fighting, Captain." That was all she needed. In engineering, Hale's team held the reactor together with desperate improvisation. Steam hissed, conduits rattled, and warning klaxons wailed like dying animals. "We can't keep her stable," Hale muttered. "Then we don't," Rourke's voice came over comms. "Come. Steady. Instead, we make her roar one last time." The engineers looked at each other, realization dawning. Overload, not failure. If they couldn't win, they could burn bright enough to be remembered. Strategos Valix glared at the human vessel through the viewport of his flagship. Smoke poured from it. Weapons barely flickered. It should have been lifeless. Instead, it steered directly toward his command. "Madness," he hissed. The aide at his side whispered, "Uneasy," or "Courage." Valix's hands clenched. Never in the Empire's history had prey acted so. They had seen broken worlds, civilizations kneeling before superior force. Yet this single ship of humans, alone and outnumbered, had bloodied his fleet and now threatened to drive a blade into its heart. "Destroy them!" he roared. The Reach shuddered under the assault. Decks collapsed. Fires consumed sections beyond saving. Yet crews still fought, dragging the wounded, manning guns until their hands blistered, sealing breaches with their own bodies when metal failed. On Deck 3, Marines barred the path of a fresh wave of boarders. Outnumbered 3-1, they dug in. Sergeant Alvarez shouted over the roar of plasma. "They want this ship? They'll pay in corpses." Her squad answered with defiance, not fear. And they held. Rourke's hand hovered over her command console. Her bridge crew watched, knowing what was coming. "Captain," her helmsman whispered, "if we do this, there's no way out." "There was never a way out," Rourke replied. "But there's always a way through." She looked each of them in the eye. "We are the first humans to stand against an empire that thought itself unchallenged. We may not live to see Earth again, but we will make certain they never forget we were here." A hush filled the bridge. Then, one by one, voices rose. "I, Captain. With you. Let's finish this." Rourke pressed the command. Deep in the ship's heart, the reactor flared. Energy surged through conduits, overwhelming safety limits, building toward a singular eruption. Hale and his engineers held it steady, guiding the surge not as destruction, but as a weapon. "Output at critical," Hale reported, sweat stinging his eyes. 30 seconds until breach." "Make them count," Rourke answered. The Reach lunged forward, battered engines screaming as they drove her like a spear. Alien cruisers scattered too late. The human vessel punched into the formation, weapons blazing in her death throes. Plasma fire ripped into hulls at point-blank range. Boarding pods exploded before launching. And still she drove on, nose aimed squarely at Valix's flagship. On the alien bridge, panic finally broke discipline. Officers shouted, some retreating from consoles, others pleading with the strategos to fall back. They intend to ram us. Impossible. Look at them. They will not stop. Valix saw it then, in the unwavering path of that broken ship. Humanity had not come to plead or kneel. They had come to carve a warning into the bones of the Empire itself. His voice faltered. What are these creatures? The reactor screamed into overload. White light filled the reach. Brace. Rourke called. The explosion tore free in silence, a sun blossoming from steel. Energy ripped outward, shredding the nearest cruisers, crippling half the fleet. Valix's flagship staggered, hull shattering under the shock wave. When the light faded, only wreckage drifted where the Endeavor's reach had been. For a moment, the battlefield was still. Alien ships hung frozen, crews staring at the void where a single human ship had annihilated dozens of theirs. No victory cries came. Only silence, heavy and shaken. Weeks later, word spread across the Empire. The strategos returned home scarred, his fleet broken, his pride shattered. He spoke of prey that did not bow, of humans who laughed in the face of annihilation. In cantinas on distant colonies, whispers grew. Have you heard of the humans? They fought an entire fleet. They died, yes, but not before they made the Empire bleed. The Empire was afraid, truly afraid. The legend of the Endeavor's reach was born not from survival, but from defiance. On Earth, transmissions arrived through fractured relays. Grainy, half-burned messages of the crew's final moments. Families wept as they heard Rourke's voice steady to the last, as they saw Marines standing unbroken amid fire. Governments gathered. Militaries mobilized. Scientists began reworking alien scraps recovered in earlier skirmishes. Humanity was no longer stumbling into the galactic stage. They were marching onto it with fists clenched. Far from Earth, in the vast halls of alien power, a phrase began to circulate. First in hushed tones, then louder, until even the ruling council could not ignore it. They are not prey. They are not conquered. They are human. And for the first time in centuries, the Empire braced itself not for conquest, but for war.